this morning. Good to see you both. Thanks so much for coming in. We're kicking off with our main story today, and this appalling attack on a Christmas market in Germany, picked up and put on the front page by the Daily Mail, but for a lot of the papers, the news... Journalist Alicia Fitzgerald and reporter for Mail Online, Lettis Bromowski, this morning. Good to see you both. Thanks so much for coming in. We're kicking off with our main story today, and this appalling attack on a Christmas market in Germany, picked up and put on the front page by the Daily Mail, but for a lot of the papers, the news perhaps came a bit late for their front pages, but certainly it's the main splash on the Daily Mail's front page.
Yeah, no, exactly. This awful, disgusting attack happened late last night in Germany, where a 50-year-old man from Saudi Arabia drove his car into this Christmas market. We know so far that 2 people have been confirmed to have died. One of them was just a young toddler, so it's already a horrible tragedy. What we are going to be seeing a lot more over today, and as we unpack this, is what happened to allow this to happen, because Germany itself has got a lot of problems essentially in this area. This has happened before in 2016. Another man drove his car into a Christmas market, and now they put up these concrete bollards that you see around, should protect Christmas markets from things like this happening. At the Christmas market last night, these in place. So there's going to be a lot of questions around how the car managed to still get through. Witnesses at the scene were saying it was accelerating for about 400 metres before the market, how it managed to get through, how this has happened again. The man in question, the Saudi Arabian man, wasn't actually believed to be known by police. He wasn't believed to, be a extreme Islamist or anything like that. So how he's managed to slip through the cracks in this way?
Well, yes. I mean, and there's still a lot of questions. As you say, police are saying that the suspect is a 50-year-old man originally from Saudi Arabia, but lived in Germany, they say, since 2006. He has been arrested. No doubt there will be a lot of interviews to try to establish some kind of motive, and at present we have no idea what that is. So a lot of work for police in establishing why this happened, but also there'll be a lot of nervousness across the country, of course, especially seeing as Christmas markets are such a huge part of the culture there, just days away from Christmas.
Absolutely, and I think with any sort of act of terror, obviously there isn't a situation that's necessarily worse than another. All of it is absolutely grotesque, but there's something so horrible about a kind of indiscriminate act of terror like this in a Christmas market. I mean, this market had children in. We know that there are some children who are seriously injured as well, and it's meant to be a time of really joyous time. It's the last week before Christmas, people there with their families. It's meant to be, people are just there to enjoy themselves, and it's just so hideous and adds a really, really horrible taste to people's mouths, I think. And I think, as Lettis was saying, this isn't the first time this has happened. It happened in Berlin. Similar acts have happened in France. And obviously, of course, it wasn't a Christmas market, but we'll remember the Westminster Bridge attack as well, a very similar act of terror where someone used a vehicle to terrorise. And I think there just is this big question of how do you stop this? How do you prevent this? And I just think no one really has the answer at the moment.
No, absolutely.
And as we look even today, thousands of people in London will be going to Oxford Street or our Christmas markets in Trafalgar Square and Leicester Square. And now they'll be going thinking, am I safe? Am I safe in these places?
Well, yes, and in fact, let's take a look while we talk about this a little bit further. The front page of the Daily Telegraph actually has this story. It's a small news in brief at the bottom, perhaps reflecting the fact that it was early stages of the information that the front page was published. But I think just in the last few days, the police have kind of put out, and security services have put out a message for people in this country as well, just to always be vigilant when being in crowded places.
God, completely. And in so many ways, when you're in crowded places, and much minor sort of criminal things, but like it's easier for crimes to happen, whether that's just pickpocketing off someone or things that are going on. We've got Winter Wonderland here, which has numerous sort of crimes going on at the time, and they're always saying be vigilant when you go there, watch out for pickpocketers. But people, again, it should be such a happy, joyous time of the year. Those families would have been going out the first weekend before Christmas, that sort of pre-excitement, and this utter tragedy has happened. And it could have happened, anywhere, realistically. It's happened in Germany, but these terror incidences, they can happen anywhere.
I think Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think the problem as well is this idea of being vigilant. I don't know how you can be vigilant to avoid that. There is absolutely no way, if a vehicle is approaching you at that speed when you are in somewhere that you probably deem as pretty safe, you're at a Christmas market, that you would be able to do absolutely anything about that. I mean, it's just gross and it's indiscriminate. And, you know, there's just, even if you had seen it kind of coming, I think you take a moment to really process what was happening.
There was one woman who was there last night whose boyfriend was hit by the car, and she was saying to one of the regional papers that you didn't hear the car coming, you know, over the noise of the music and people chatting and everything going on. No one heard the car coming. There was zero time for them to even be able to react in these instances.
Yeah, well, we're going to keep an eye on developments throughout the day here because no doubt we'll get updates from authorities because information is still pretty sketchy at the moment. But let's move on to some of the other stories on the papers now. And we'll stay with the front of the Daily Telegraph. A number of stories on their front page as usual, but you've picked out the response to the formal announcement yesterday that Lord Mandelson is being made the UK's ambassador to Washington, and not a very flattering response from a Trump aide.
No, I think that's definitely a fair assessment. I mean, a Trump aide has pretty much just totally damned this appointment.
Called him an absolute moron, I think we can say that.
Yeah, called him an absolute moron, which I don't think is probably the friendliest welcome that Lord Mandelson would have expected. Yeah, it's not super diplomatic and probably not the best for Keir Starmer either. I think he took quite some time to choose Lord Mandelson for this job. A lot of questions as to why as well. It's also, can't really avoid the links to Jeffrey Epstein as well. I saw there was a story in the Mirror about that, with lots of people questioning why Lord Mandelson has ended up in this role. But what Trump is basically saying is that he's not really fit for this job. And obviously those two are going to have to work together at some point. And the comments that keep coming back are obviously the Foreign Secretary David Lammy's comments a few years ago, obviously pretty insulting to Donald Trump. But he doesn't seem to be the only one who's been caught out. Lord Mandelson said some things himself. He said that Trump is a danger to the world and a little short of a white nationalist and racist. So I think there's a lesson to be learned here that things that you say can definitely come back to bite you in a few years when you don't know just where you'll be.
Absolutely. And I was also going to say on that, there's so many parts of it. It's a bold appointment. That's what everyone's been saying all week. You know, it's a bold appointment. There's so many parts of where both of these two men, Trump and Mandelson, stand on either side of things that might actually be a problem going forward in their relationship. So Mandelson himself is very pro the EU. He was very anti-Brexit and all of that. He used to be the trade commissioner there, which is going to be very important going forward when we look at Trump, who's coming in, who's making claims he's going to put 20% tariffs on everything coming from the UK. We're going to need someone with those sort of expertise to be able to negotiate a very strong trade deal for us.
And yet his supporters would say that the comments he said about Trump was he was reflecting what he felt the people in the country felt about him. They would also say he's a very seasoned political operator who also has the trust of Keir Starmer. And Donald Trump will be flattered by that, the fact that someone so close to the Prime Minister is being sent to do business with him.
Definitely, and I think that will have largely been the logic in Number 10 and from the Labour top team. It's this idea that Peter Mandelson is a Labour grandee. He's a big name in the Labour Party, and particularly during the Blair government. And he's someone that globally and internationally is known and is heard of. And I think the logic for appointing him is very much to do with this recognisable element to Peter Mandelson.
And his experience in trade.
And his experience, exactly. So there's definitely, you can understand why the appointment was made, whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah, and we'll see how it pans out, of course. Let's touch on the Guardian's front page, shall we now? Because they have an interview with Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, on the front page. And the headline is, "I won't gaslight voters over the economy." And there have been some tricky numbers that have been coming out on the economy in the last few weeks. So tell us a little bit more about what she's saying about them.
So, yeah, they've done this interview with her saying that, you know, I won't gaslight voters over the economy. I think that the interview itself, her saying that statement, is going to be a bit of an affront to a lot of people reading that, because so far there have been many things that have come out that they have either backtracked on or changed in terms of the finances for people. You think of winter fuel payments, you think of, you know, going back on what they said around WASPy women and getting their money paid out to them. So in terms of things like that, I think people will be reading that and being like, in some ways, we already have been gaslit by you. So now you're coming out and saying, I won't get gaslit over this. She also later on in the story says that she won't apologise for the stance that they've taken up to this point. And again, I think that's quite a harsh line to take when a lot of people going into winter, bills are up, the inflation is going up again, people are struggling, and you're saying, I'm not going to apologise for the stance we've taken.
OK, and she will maintain that she has to make some tough steps to try to restore economic stability. And in the long term, her plan, she hopes, will produce the kind of growth that will boost the country. We're out of time. We will see you a couple more times during the programme, though. But for the moment, thanks both very much indeed.